I don't have much time left. I just wanted to see you once more. Some love stories begin at rooftop parties, candlelit restaurants, or chance encounters in the rain. This one began in a hospital elevator, between a girl who had everything the world could offer and a man who was quietly running out of time. This is the story of Bruce and Laura, and the floors that separated them, until they didn't. Bruce Callahan was 31 years old, a mechanic from Queens. Calloused hands, easy laugh, the kind of man who fixed things without being asked and never talked about it after. He wasn't rich, he wasn't connected, but he was honest. And in a city like New York, that counted for something, even if the city rarely paid you back for it. He had started feeling it 8 months ago, a tightness in his chest climbing stairs, a shortness of breath in the middle of a sentence, a heaviness that sleep didn't fix. The doctor sat across from him and said the words slowly, like he was handing them over one at a time. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, advanced stage. His heart was too big. Ironic, his mother said when he told her. She wasn't wrong. Margaret Callahan visited every single day. She took the 7 train from Jackson Heights, walked through the lobby with 2 paper cups of bad coffee, and sat beside his bed talking about everything except the thing sitting between them like a third person in the room. She never cried in front of him. She cried in the elevator on the way down. Laura Whitfield was 29, only daughter of Richard Whitfield, founder of Whitfield Capital, a man whose net worth had more commas than most people's passwords. She had been raised to be the next version of him, polished, brilliant, controlled, already being groomed to take over the company before she turned 30. She had been managing a severe heart condition quietly for 2 years. Her family had the best doctors, the best suite on the best floor. Her father came in a tailored suit even at 8 in the morning. Her mother made sure the nurses knew exactly who they were dealing with. Bruce stepped into the elevator and looked down at his chips. She looked at the chips, then at him. "You know those have 320 calories, right?" She said it before she could stop herself. "I have a bad heart," Bruce said, completely deadpan. "I figure I've already lost the argument with my body. Might as well enjoy the negotiation." She almost smiled. Almost. The elevator opened. They went their separate ways. Day 2. She was at the vending machine. So was he. Neither of them mentioned it. Hospital lounge. Day 4. Laura is sitting alone, phone face up on the armrest. Bruce walks past, slows down, stops. He noticed it by accident. Her lock screen. A still from Attack on Titan, the scene at the cliff, the ocean, the weight of everything that was sacrificed to get there. No way. She looked up. "That's your lock screen?" "It's a good show," she said, slightly defensive. "Good show." He sat down uninvited. "It's the greatest thing ever made, and I will die on that hill, possibly literally, given my situation." She laughed. A real one, the kind that sneaks out before you can compose yourself. That evening, they watched 3 episodes on her laptop in the hospital lounge, a bag of chips between them, 320 calories, shared. She told him her theory about Aaron. He disagreed loudly and completely. She held her position. He respected it. They argued for 40 minutes like people who had known each other for years. The nurse had to ask them to keep it down twice. Neither of them apologized. By the end of the first week, they had a routine neither of them planned. The lounge at 8, the vending machine at 10, a walk down the corridor at noon that kept getting longer. She stopped bringing a book. She didn't need one anymore. He started getting there early. He told himself it was just to get the good seat. Days pass. The hospital becomes a world of its own. Morning walks down quiet corridors, conversations that start about nothing and end somewhere neither of them expected. It started small, the way all dangerous things do. She told him about the company, the pressure, the way her father looked at her sometimes, not like a daughter, but like a very promising investment he couldn't afford to lose. He told her about his shop, his regulars, the old man who came in every 6 weeks with the same Buick and stayed 2 hours longer than necessary just to have someone to talk to. 2 weeks in, the nurses had stopped being surprised to find them in the lounge past midnight. Bruce made her laugh in a way nobody in her world ever had. He wasn't performing, he wasn't angling for anything. He just talked to her, like she was a person, not a portfolio. Some people make you feel seen without trying. Bruce was that kind of person. And for a girl who had spent her whole life being looked at, being seen felt like something close to oxygen. Laura's hospital room, week 3. Catherine Whitfield sits by the window. Laura is talking faster than usual. She told her mother about him on a Thursday. Not everything, just enough. The elevator, the chips, the attack on Titan argument, the way he talked about his shop like it was a living thing he was responsible for. "He makes me feel normal," Laura said, "like I'm not a diagnosis or a succession plan, just a person." Catherine listened without interrupting. When Laura finished, her mother was quiet for a moment. "He sounds kind," Catherine said finally. "He is. Then I hope you're enjoying it." Laura looked at her. "Your father will have opinions," Catherine said simply. "He always does." Neither of them heard the footsteps slow outside the door. Neither of them heard them stop. The corridor outside. Richard Whitfield stands just beyond the doorframe, his face unreadable. He has heard enough. Richard Whitfield did not react. That was the thing about him. He never reacted. He assessed, he planned, he moved. He had been noticing for 2 weeks. Now he had heard enough to act. He straightened his jacket and walked to the nurse's station. A quiet office. Richard sits across from one of the senior physicians on the ward. Polite, precise, dangerous. "The young man on this floor, Bruce Callahan, same condition as my daughter?" The doctor was careful. "I can't discuss another patient's. I'm not asking for his chart. I'm asking whether he has the means to manage his care long term." A pause. The doctor said nothing specific, but the silence said enough. Richard thanked him, stood, left. He already had what he needed. Hospital corridor, week 4. Richard intercepts Bruce near the elevator. Evening. The ward is quiet. "You seem like a decent man," Richard said. "I try to be." "Then you understand that decent men don't pursue what isn't theirs." Bruce looked at him steadily. "With respect, sir, she isn't a company asset." Richard almost smiled. "No, she's something more valuable, and she has a future that has already been arranged. A man named Daniel Chen, educated, established. A merger that benefits both families. You understand mergers, I imagine, even in your line of work." He let the last sentence settle. "I'm not asking you to disappear. I'm asking you to be realistic." Bruce walked away without answering. But that night, lying in his hospital bed, he did the math he had been avoiding. $94,000 in outstanding bills. His savings gone. His mother quietly selling jewelry she had kept since his father died. His shop in Queens closed for 7 weeks. 4 weeks in the same building. 4 weeks of something real. And the world had already started moving to end it. He had nothing to offer Laura Whitfield except himself. And in this world, in this situation, he was starting to wonder if that was enough. She already knew. Of course she knew. "You should take it," she said. "Bruce, listen to me." She looked at him the way people look at something they are trying to memorize. "I watched you pretend you weren't scared. I watched your mother hold herself together every time she left your room. I know what your bills look like. I know what happens if you don't get the right care." Her voice stayed even. She had practiced this. "I can survive my father's world. I've been surviving it my whole life. But I cannot sit here and watch you die because you are too proud to let someone help you." "This isn't how I want this to end," Bruce said. "I know. I don't want to walk away from you. I know. She reached across and held his hand, just for a moment, just long enough. Take the deal, Bruce. Get better. Build your shop back. Live. And you? She looked out at the New York skyline. I'll do what I was always going to do. There are moments that don't feel like endings when they're happening. They feel like a pause, like a breath held too long, like a door you're still standing in front of even after it is closed. In 8 weeks, they'd built something real. The world spent 3 days dismantling it. He took the deal. 3 days later, the ward. Laura's room. Empty. A hospital bed being wheeled down the corridor. Her father moved quickly. Within 72 hours of the agreement, Laura was transferred to Lenox Hill, a private hospital uptown. Better facilities, her father said. More appropriate specialists. Bruce stood in the corridor and watched the room be stripped and reset for a new patient. She had not said goodbye. He understood why. It was easier that way. Cleaner. He told himself she was right. He told himself that every day for 2 weeks until the morning they handed him his discharge papers and the hospital became just a building again. Week 8. Morning. Bruce walks out in street clothes, Margaret waiting by the curb. She hugs him for a long time. His heart beat perfectly, but it beat in fragments she left behind. Queens. Bruce's shop. 3 months later. The sign is back up. The lights are on. His hands are busy. He rebuilt. That was what he knew how to do. Fix things. Put them back together. Find the broken part and work until it ran clean again. The shop came back slowly. A regular here, a referral there. The old man in his Buick showing up on a Tuesday like no time had passed at all. Bruce worked long hours. He didn't mind. The noise helped. He did not contact Laura. He told himself it was the right thing, that her world had always been set on a track he was never meant to ride. He told himself this every morning. Some mornings it almost worked. A Thursday afternoon, a silver car pulls up outside. Bruce is under a chassis. He hears the door. She walked in the way fate always arrives. Quietly, without warning, wearing someone else's last name. He heard her laugh before he saw her face. And for a moment, time did what it always does when it has something cruel to show you. It slowed down. She was radiant. She was whole. She was someone's wife. She was going to be someone's mother. 2 months along, just barely visible, but he noticed. Of course he noticed. Her husband did the talking. Transmission issue, strange noise at low speed. Bruce answered every question. His hands stayed steady, his voice stayed even. Laura stood by the window, one hand resting lightly on her stomach. When their eyes met, she smiled. Not a small smile, not a polite one, the kind of smile that remembers everything. He smiled back. That was all he could give her. That was everything he had left. His husband shook his hand, said he'd come back Thursday. She walked out without looking back. Some men carry their heartbreak loudly, in late nights and empty bottles and songs played too many times. Bruce carried his quietly, in a smile held just long enough, in a handshake with the man who got to keep her.
Bruce's apartment, that night. Ceiling. Silence. He couldn't sleep, not because of the memories. He had learned to live beside those. This was different. A tightness in his chest that started at midnight and didn't ease by 3. By 5 in the morning, his left arm was heavy. By 6, he was calling a cab. St. Vincent's Hospital, emergency department, the next morning. The doctor's face told him before the words did. The condition had returned, aggressively. The stress on the heart, physical and otherwise, had accelerated what medication had been holding back. A transplant was no longer an option. The damage was too extensive, too fast-moving. 4 days, that was what they gave him. He had survived 8 weeks in that hospital. He had rebuilt his shop from nothing. He had stood 2 feet away from her and held himself together. And now, 4 days. He asked the nurse for a pen and paper. There are things you carry your whole life that you never find the right moment to put down. And then one day, time runs out, and you realize the moment was always now. He wrote her one message, short, honest, no performance. I don't have much time left. I just want to see you once more. You don't have to come, but I had to ask. Laura's home. She reads the message. Her hand goes still. Her mother watches from the doorway. She read it 3 times. Then she looked up at her mother, and Catherine Whitfield, who had stayed quiet through a wedding and a pregnancy and a life built on someone else's timeline, simply nodded. Go, her mother said. I'll come with you. St. Vincent's, Bruce's room, day 2 of 4. He is sitting up when they arrive. He looks thinner, but his eyes are the same. Catherine waited outside. The room was very quiet. There was a lot that needed to be said, and somehow neither of them could find the beginning of it, so they didn't try. They sat in the silence together, the way you can only sit with someone you have truly known. After a while, he said, I'm happy for you. She looked at him. I'm not, she said quietly. I'm not happy. He held her gaze. You will be. It takes time, but you will be. Bruce, you're going to be a wonderful mother. You're going to run that company better than your father ever did, and someday, when it doesn't hurt like this anymore, you're going to have a good life. Her eyes were full. I'm going somewhere better, he said. I really believe that. She nodded. She couldn't speak. 30 minutes. That was all the time they had left together. 30 minutes of silence that said more than most people say in a lifetime. She stood to leave. She picked up her bag, turned toward the door. The machines started beeping, loudly, urgently, all at once. Nurses flooded the room. Someone took her by the arm and moved her into the corridor. She stood against the wall while the room filled with people and sound and the sharp mechanical language of a body in crisis. She felt something in her own chest, a sharp pull, a tightness she recognized. She pressed her hand to her sternum and said nothing. 1 hour. She stood in that corridor for 1 hour. A doctor came out. She already knew. She had known from the sound of the machines. He was gone. Some people leave quietly. No grand gesture, no final speech, just presence and then absence, and the silence that follows, that is shaped exactly like them. The doctor said something she didn't fully hear. Her mother's hand found her arm. She smiled, not because it was fine, not because she was okay, but because he had asked her to have a good life, and the least she could do in that moment was try to look like someone who would. She took 1 step toward the exit, then another. Then the floor came up to meet her. Catherine catching her. Staff rushing over. A wheelchair. A new admission form. A familiar ward. Laura Whitfield was admitted to St. Vincent's cardiac ward at 4:47 in the afternoon. Same hospital, same condition, 1 floor down from where he had been. They said it was the stress, the shock, the grief hitting a heart that had been quietly carrying too much for too long. They were right, and they were also missing something. Some hearts don't break the way we expect them to. They don't shatter loudly in a single moment. They carry the weight quietly, steadily, until the person they were beating for is no longer in the world, and then they simply stop holding on. Whether she recovered, the story does not say. Some endings belong to the people living them. The elevator, empty. Doors open, doors close. No one steps in. 1 elevator, 2 people, the same broken hearts beating on different floors. He never stopped loving her. She never stopped carrying him. And somewhere between the vending machine and the last beep of a monitor, between chips with 320 calories and a lock screen from Attack on Titan, there was something real. That's the thing about love in the wrong circumstances. It doesn't stop being real just because the world couldn't hold it. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who needs to feel something today. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe. I'll be here.